Alright guys, today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. I want to talk about the sustainability of Escape from Tarkov. And so, what does that really mean? Well, if you don't know what Escape from Tarkov is, I'm not going to sit here and explain it, but essentially the main problem with the game that I want to focus on is that currently, about every 6 months, this wipe, it's looking like it's going to be 7, the game wipes. It completely resets your progress, all of your inventory, the tasks you've done, your hideout progression, your stats, everything completely resets with a few new things, maybe a new map, a new couple of tasks here and there, some weapons, whatever it may be that they've added for you to play through all over again. Now, if you play it the way I play it, and currently it's in beta, pre-alpha, whatever the hell you want to call it, might as well call it game preview for all you want at this point. But currently, if you play it like I said, the way I play it, which is the wipe comes out, you play it for a month, month and a half, 2 with the most recent one, and then you don't touch it again until it wipes, so then you go 4 months without playing it. That works just fine for the current model of the game, where, like I said, it's in, a beta version, and they're still working on it, and they're stabilizing the game and all of that stuff. But the amount of content that is released within these 6-month periods, basically 2 updates a year, is not enough, in my opinion, to sustain long term. Because if you look at something like the games that have lasted a long time over a long period of time, right? I'm not talking like Call of Duty, because they release a new game every single year, so that doesn't really count. I'm talking like the Fortnite, the Rainbow Six Siege, the Overwatch, the World of Warcraft, freaking League of Legends, the Rocket Leagues, games like that, games that are still really big. And I mean, Rainbow Six Siege came out 7 years ago, right? And these are games, even Warzone you can count, are top of Twitch every day, right? Grand Theft Auto. And the reason these games work is because they're constantly adding new content. Now, I'm not saying Escape from Tarkov needs to get to a point of Fortnite and Warzone when they have a new bundle and a new thing every single week and a new event every month. They don't need to do that. That's not that type of game that is. That's not needed, right? I mean, for an average player, someone who's not committed to the game, 24/7, or a streamer or a YouTuber for the game, where they're not constantly playing it all of the time, someone who, let's just say, is casually playing it 3 to 4 hours a day, it's going to take you a month or two every reset just to get to the level you want to get at. But to do with the game, there needs to be some sort of sustainability long term, right? Between those updates, there needs to be some type of content in order to make it more interesting, or just the base content. There needs to be more of each update, or the updates need to be more frequent, whatever it is. That being said, they are doing a lot more events than they used to do, and that's fine and dandy. But my problem is that 90% of the things that Tarkov does in general, not just the events, but while we're on the topic of events, are geared towards the higher end players. The streamers, the people who are really good, who play this all day, every day. Now, from a marketing standpoint, that makes sense, because those are the people that are promoting your game, so you want the events that are going to keep those people there to be geared towards those people so they stay there longer and promote your game longer, right? And so, the problem with that, like, for example, if you're not familiar with Tarkov or haven't kept up to date with it, they have, pretty much every single wipe an event towards the end where just things are ridiculously expensive, or like the traders go down, or there's scav bosses on every single map, and that's fine, but like none of the events have brought me back after I stopped playing this wipe. I played them last wipe. I'm not good enough, or have the time to commit to get good enough to where those are interesting and fun for me, and so I just didn't even touch them this time. Right, and so my overall problem here, look at like Battlefield 2042. I just did a video on that last week. They just did their first big content update, and it's not even really a big content update, 8 months after launch. And if you compare it to Tarkov, right, again, the games aren't comparable at all, but just for the sake of argument, Battlefield 2042 dropped a map, a character, 2 weapons, and 2 vehicles, right? Tarkov typically will drop, let's take last last wipe just because it was a big one. They dropped a new map, and now the map's much bigger and has more detail, has a lot more stuff on it, and you can get into that and go back and forth all day. A couple new quests with that map, and they typically drop, like, let's average it out and say 5 new weapons, because there's a lot coming this wipe, and there were a decent amount in the last 2 wipes. And so, while that content's great and all, for someone like me, like I said, the more casual person who's not playing this all day, a lot of those weapons, like the Mutant, was added, I think, 2 wipes ago. The Scar H and L, those types of things. With this wipe, the grenade launcher. It takes so long to attain those items, right, that by the time you get to that point, you're either done for the wipe, or it's so far into the wipe that you can't keep up with other players, and so you're just done at that point. The Mutant, I still haven't used it to this day, and that's one of my favorite guns. The Scar H, the Christmas present that we got, it's the only time I've ever used it. Scar L, now that's on the cheaper side, but I'm just using it as an example. I used that maybe 2 or 3 times, right? A lot of these items are so geared towards the high tier players, they don't keep the lower tier players or the mid tier players or the average players, which is your widest span of player base, interested in the game for long enough. Now I know they've talked about the whole, when the game officially launches, that whole strategy of having kind of instead of a scav and a PMC, which if you don't play the game is like your main character, and then like another side character that doesn't carry over progression but is just used to get loot essentially. But within the full game, having a character that is persistent with every single wipe. They don't get wiped, they don't reset, they always have what they have, right? And then a character that works the way the game works now, where you have a character that gets wiped, blah, blah, blah. Now, the problem with this is that Escape from Tarkov's perhaps best feature today, not 5 years ago, but really persistent today, is the way that skill-based matchmaking just has no effect on this game at all. There is no skill-based matchmaking. I've played some people who are absolutely terrible, and I'm really bad, so that's saying something. And then people that are absolutely insane. If you split this into a persistent character and a character that wipes, not only one are you splitting the player base, which is the problem Call of Duty had and why all their maps are free now, but you're also taking that player base and splitting the skill gap in between them. So the character that wipes every single couple months, these are gonna, have 2 extremes. Basically, both groups are. You're gonna have the people that fly through it, get Gamma level 70 in like a month, and don't touch the game. They're super good at it. Those people are going to be playing the version that constantly wipes. They can go in, kind of grind it out, do their thing, and then they're done, right? But then you have this other character that just goes on forever and ever and ever. And the only saving grace for bad people like myself and Tarkov is at the beginning of wipe, when everyone has shit armor and shit weapons and shit ammo, and maybe you have a chance for like the first week until everybody gets ahead of you, right? And so the problem with that persistent character is people who are really, really good are going to get so far ahead. They're going to have so much money because it never wipes that the people who are bad aren't going to be able to play that mode, right? And then the problem with the wiped mode for the average or bad player is that it's essentially the same thing, right? Within a new wipe, you have, let's call it a month and be generous, before everybody is absolutely mega chatted, right? I just smacked the fuck out of my mic. Hope that didn't fuck up the audio. But, like, mega chatted. I'm talking, like, you need the best of the best to kill him or you're losing, right? And I know because my very first time I played this game, I started at the end of a wipe, right? And so typically, like I said, the first couple weeks, you're fine. But after that, if you're not playing consistently and getting good gear and progressing through tasks at a good rate, you're just absolutely so far behind that you can't keep up, right? So that would be the problem with the wiped version character, whatever you want to call it. The one that doesn't wipe, people are going to get so far ahead and never get reset that you're going to have the same problem. So, essentially, what happens is you're going to have 2 separate modes. In your normal, let's call it current Tarkov mode, where the character wipes, it's It's going to be no different than how it is now. The chads fly through within a month, get to their chatted status, and then everybody else can't keep up, and there's no point in playing, right? And then maybe it'll be a little bit longer, maybe it'll be 2 months on the persistent character, let's say, but it's going to result in the same problem. Now, eventually, if you play the game for long enough, you'll catch up to that level of money and wealth and gear and guns and ammo and all of that stuff, and you'll be able to, at least from an item standpoint, keep up with those players. Not so much a skill standpoint, that's just how you progress as a player, as you get better or worse as you continue to play. But, so overall, that wouldn't really solve the problem. But then implementing skill-based matchmaking just ruins the game completely. Because I hate skill-based matchmaking, right? I've done so many videos on it. It ruins everything. And so, honestly, right, I sat down and started making this video with no solution in mind. And now, after discussing it and actually thinking about it and going through, the way that the meta kind of works in the game, the only real way to solve this problem would be to make the updates more frequent, like I said in the beginning of the video, or make more content in them. Because, like with anything, when something's new, it's going to take you longer to progress through it. So there's new tasks and challenges and maps, having to figure all of that out, and it not just being memory. It's going to take those really good players longer to figure out, which gives the not so good players more time to catch up, which would make that period where everyone's not mega chatted that first month, maybe it extends it out to 2 months. Now that's the idea of adding more content to each wipe, right? You still have these 6-month gaps, and I don't think it's realistic to develop enough content with the way things work. Your other option is to decrease the time between wipe. For 2 main reasons, I think this is probably the best option. Well, one, it would require that Battlestate Games hire more people and expand and all of that stuff so that they can make more content at a quicker rate. But one, this wouldn't, force them to make more content and shove more stuff in the game because the game's already buggy as hell. And so adding more and more and more content would, obviously create more bugs and give them less time to fix it. Now, this will also give them less time to fix it, but you could have wipes every, let's say, 3 months instead of 6. And yeah, you're not going to get a new map and new guns and new tasks and all of that stuff, new traders with every single one of these wipes, but it'll keep you interested, because at its core, the idea of Tarkov is what makes it interesting, right? The gunplay and the tasks and the looting and your stash and keeping your stuff, being able to trade on the flea market and all of that. This also reduces the time that there is this mega chad period, if that's what we're going to call it, right? Instead of just, essentially the average player or worse getting bored after the first month and then not touching the game for 5 months, now maybe they get, even if they still get bored after that first month, now it's only 2 until the game wipes and everyone's back on that level playing field, right? And now you're going to say, just get good. This also would come into play as the game would wipe every 3 months, because currently the game, like I said, wipes twice a year, every 6 months roughly, and I put in about 200 hours each wipe, right? And so I'm putting in about 400 hours a year on the game, right? That's not a lot to get to the point to get better with Tarkov, because yeah, it's 400 hours, but if you play Tarkov, a lot of that's like inventory management and learning the new systems, doing tasks, doing trader stash stuff, loading into the actual fucking game, all of that. So it's not really 200 hours of gameplay. And then gunfighting, it's even less. Gunfights in Tarkov are very quick, so you really have to die or, fight scavs a lot to get good at it. And so instead of that 200, whatever I said, 400 hours a year with the 6-month wipe, you'd now be at least doubling that to 800 hours, right? You progress quicker. Now, you could just play the game longer, but like I said a million times now, that period, that first month where everyone's on a level playing field, it's a lot easier to get better doing that than it is when everyone's mega chatted. Now, when you have experience and you know why you're losing, that's fine. You can still learn and progress. I talk from my Rainbow Six Siege experience here, even at those later levels in the wipe. But when you're brand new and you're dumping a guy with 9mm and you don't have no clue why he's eating it because he's running around with a level 6 armor on, and you have no clue that you're 4 months into the wipe, you can't learn anything from that because you just get one tapped and that's it. When everyone's on the relatively same playing field, it works. Now, that being said, skill-based matchmaking, do not put skill-based matchmaking in this game. It'll ruin it, right? It's ruined everything. Just to summarize, without going on like a rant, because I've done that at least twice before in other videos, they're out there, go watch those if you want to hear me rant about skill-based matchmaking. The problem, if you introduced it to Tarkov, is that, one, it's luck-based, but everything's luck-based, really. I mean, if you turn, you're facing him, or he's facing you, or how you sneak up on the person, or who hears who first, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of luck in it. But there's also a lot of skill that has nothing to do with gameplay, right? Call of Duty, and it's changed a bit with the whole gunsmith thing, but for the most part, there is no loadout. Like I said, for the most part, it depends on the map and the way the game's kind of broken right now, the meta, but for the most part, how you go in to the match, what gun you use, what loadout, perks, kill streaks, relatively isn't really going to change how you perform. If you're good, you're pretty much going to do good with anything. And if you're bad, you're going to do bad with anything. Tarkov, that is not the problem. You could throw some absolute mega chat in the game, but if you give them some trash tier body armor, like freaking mac and cheese loadout, and then you throw me in, give me level 6 body armor, some absolute Chad weapons, dope helmet, don't give them headphones, give me headphones, that's an even fight, right? And so that's what works in Tarkov, is that the items you can find and bring in, and then you bring map knowledge into it, which is just an experience and playtime thing. And so my point is Tarkov sustainable? The answer is yes and no, and I know that's a terrible answer, but without changing Tarkov's core identity, you cannot make it sustainable in the sense of having that same large player base that plays the game at the beginning of wipe all the way throughout the entire wipe, right? And I know, like, Call of Duty and Rainbow Six Siege get huge spikes on their new seasons, Fortnite, but the percentage drop throughout the season is not as large as Tarkov's, right? They lose massive amounts of players as the wipe continues. So without changing Tarkov from being what it is at its core, you cannot make the game more sustainable to the average person. Now, to like Mega Chads, like I've been saying, that's a different story. But you can refine it a bit more, right? And the problem with refinement, I mean, I could nitpick all day. Any idea I throw out, there's going to be counters to it. I was going to say you can add more tasks to the game, but there's people that don't do tasks. You could add more to the stash, but there's people that don't do the stash, right? And so it depends on your playstyle. Essentially what I'm saying is, Tarkov's doing the best it can do right now. Right, there's a lot of people complaining out there that, it's not doing enough, there's not enough content in the updates, there's too much, time between the updates, and you have to choose. Do you want your updates to have a lot of content and then be further spaced out, or do you want them constantly and they're not that much in them? Those are essentially your two options with a game like this. You can't do much more without completely changing the game. But that's just my opinion. You guys let me know what you think of just Tarkov as a whole, when you think wipe's gonna be, because it should be soon. We're at almost 7 months now. We just passed 6 months last week, I think. With my luck, this video will go up and the game will wipe. So, but you guys let me know what you think. If you think that, Tarkov's long-term sustainability is there, or if it's not possible at all. If you have any ideas, be interested to hear that down in the comments below. And I'll see you guys on the next one.